So, I grew up in the 90s, listening to bands from Seattle, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden. Don't worry, I'm not going to smash the laptop at the end of the session.
Mudhoney?
I love it.
Yeah.
So in '98, I got my first MCSE. You guys remember this? Spent about a year doing MCSE type stuff, and then switched to dev, and spent the last, I don't know, since then, I don't know how many years that is, carving out a career in .NET, and was very keen to be the next tech guru. So presenting at Seattle, in Seattle, presenting Orchard at Microsoft is a huge privilege for me. Big thanks to steering committee, particularly Ilan, Sebastian, merci beaucoup. So my name is Samuel Goldenbaum from a company called Hellocomputer. I live in the beautiful and dynamic Cape Town in South Africa. And the majority of my time, I manage a team that is incredibly undisciplined, rude. They believe life is just one big tea party. No grasp of solid dev principles. And basically just want to play games on the iPads. The rest of my time, my spare time, I'm the group CTO of a digital agency called Hellocomputer. So we're an agency in Cape Town and Johannesburg, and part of a larger group called FCB, was recently known as Draft FCB. Very big company, 8,000 people, 150 offices, 90 countries, and it's the advertising world. We're the digital component, so we look after all kinds of ecosystems, from microsites, social platforms, big enterprise apps, and look after, we're lucky to work with a lot of great brands and manage like really big sites for a lot of these guys, and a lot of small sites as well. So today, these are just some of the samples. Today I was hoping to take us through 3, maybe 4 very quick case studies of some of the work that we've done with Orchard. This is not so much a session on like cool Orchard-y tech, it's more like cool things that we've built with Orchard, which we think is very important. So the first one I'm going to tackle is Toyota. I actually did present some of this last year at Orchard. We were in beta at the time, we were still developing, and about 3 months after that we released, so I thought I'd just use the opportunity to just run through it again as a finished product. So we manage all of Toyota's advertising and digital, so all their social platforms, their hosting, their main properties, and all the microsites around that as well, around things like Dakar and motorsport. In 2012, actually, we started with a rebuild, which finished in 2013. It was a huge project. There was a big shift in the conversion of the site. A big focus on conversion, which meant that we needed to focus on guys having quick access to models and ranges, easy access to dealer info, and we wanted to reduce clicks within the site. So the site before was a older sort of web tour build, and just to get anywhere it took you like 5 clicks, and you had to load and wait for content, and it was really frustrating me. So and the guys wanted to create a wow factor. They wanted to create a more immersive experience for their clients. So it's a great example. I've picked this one because it's a great example of Orchard as both a platform and CMS. And what I mean by that is we've So, well, let me just take on a sec. It's built on Orchard 17X. In terms of the platform side, a lot of the data that we work with, we expose as JSON via Web API. So we've got a lot of static pages, which are just normal content pages and blogs and articles and etc. But a lot of the vehicle management, a lot of the range management, a lot of the filtering, all that data we expose as JSON via Web API. And we use Backbone to build up our UI composition. All the content's managed in CMS. And we've got a whole range of modules that we've included, from forms to workflow, output cache. So a lot of the data is actually import and export from external systems as well. And a whole bunch of custom modules which we've built as well. So this is the new site. Just want to take a quick drive through it. There you go.
Yeah, that's right.
I've lost my window. Tech support. Yeah, I need to just change the output here quickly. And that should do it. Cool. So obviously the first thing you guys notice is we put in a big full screen video slider. The idea is this was to create like a really immersive experience for guys visiting the site. It's where they housed a lot of like TV commercials, cool snippets and so on. Instead of just having static content, we wanted to create something, something dynamic that really caught your eye. In terms of the API stuff we're talking around, all the data that we bring out is stored as JSON, cached locally within local storage. And all these sections that we're seeing over here in this navigation, we use Backbone to render all these views. So the data comes down to client once. We store it locally. It's quite a huge amount of data in JSON. And the cool thing about that is whichever page we're on, sorry guys, give me one sec. We're able to access these drop-downs very quickly. We don't have to make calls out to sites to load up anything. Because the data is sitting on the client, we can quickly navigate through all of this and give guys quick, really cool, filtering functionality over here. And then this entire page for ranges is built in Backbone. So what's really cool about that is flipping between these sections is pretty much instantaneous. All this data is sitting on the client, and we're just rendering out the views, and allows us to do really cool things like very quick comparisons, pulling in spec data, very cool tools to do real-time calculations on finance payments, being able to quickly flip between colors. And then obviously, shift between the gallery. So it was quite nice, a little bit different for maybe an Orchard build, is we use Web API to expose all of this data. There's one call, we get a big packet of JSON, and then we're able to to quickly shift between these views over here. And at the same time, if we need to, quickly drop down here and get to vehicles very quickly. So really solve that issue of being able to focus on the ranges, quick clicks to get to stuff. Similar kind of stuff was done on our dealership pages. Again, data comes down from Web API. Once we've got it locally, we can start doing cool things like filtering real time on Google. So if we're searching for my spelling, this is the dealership near me. I can quickly bring up the details. And then once again, move between backbone views over here for us to be able to quickly, okay, that's my house. So it uses Google to find the address. Okay. Oh, there's a little bug there. It'll plot out directions for you, write them out for you. You can, spot the area on a map, save it out. So that side of it was quite cool to be using Orchard as a platform. And then obviously all the let's actually go to then using the standard CMS stuff, like we've got lots of static pages. There's a huge amount of content on the site. They manage articles, news, everything categorized. This is just typical standard Orchard stuff. Really quick and easy for us to implement. There's search obviously tied into it as well. FJ. Cool. So this was like I was saying, was a really cool opportunity to use Orchard as platform, bringing data in from external services, housing it within Orchard, then being able to manage that content. Some of the data was non-content type data. A lot of the specifications and all those kinds of things just become too unwieldy to try and manage. It's so nested and so deep. All the forms and contact information is stored in here, runs through workflow, connects up to other third-party services to push data into them, and also stores it locally within the CMS as well. And it came out a great project. Clients really happy with it. They've had great conversion with it. Yeah. Any questions on that?
So you're using local storage. What about a non-HTML5 compliant browser?
Just fetches it.
It'll just go get it.
Yeah, it just checks to see, cool, can I use local storage? Yeah, put it in. If not, let me go and get it. Yeah, and it's JSON and it's gzipped, so it's quick. Yeah, it's obviously really quick.
Can we see some of the code?
Sorry?
Can we see some of the code?
I don't know if I've actually got the project. Can we get to the end of the session? I'll do that. That's cool. Any other questions?
In terms of creating this experience, it was really cool. Like, at what point did you decide that it was just going to be unwieldy to try to manage just this hierarchy of content types instead of just pulling it all down in in JSON and
From the outset.
okay.
Yeah. So from the outset, the vision was to have it really snappy and responsive. So you can flick between things very quickly, change your pricing, and also it keeps a lot of strain off the server, which is critical.
Right.
This is a high traffic site. The more strain that we can put onto the browser and let the browser deal with all of that type of functionality, server can chill.
Because I'm kind of thinking of a scenario in our own development where we have like we need to make a lot of options available to the client.
Yeah.
That it would just be ridiculous to have to keep like running to the server and
Yeah.
crunching numbers and doing different things to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's, yeah, I mean, you know, the spec comparison was really quite a tough bit of code. You can see how many different types of, you know, of specs each model's got, and then to bring up, and what we've just done for its version that's in staging at the moment, this only allowed us to compare models within the same range. That was the initial brief from client. They've now said, okay, cool, they want to be able to compare Prius with like a truck. I don't know why, but so you now you've actually got different schema as well in terms of your specs and so on. So there's a lot of weird stuff that you have to do to get that to kind of work, but it's working great, and it's nice and zippy. Feels, yeah.
Sorry, along the same lines, like, the reason why I asked that is, did you guys test like trying to just stick with the Orchard way of like creating records and parts and stuff like that?
We have all of that. So there are range content types. There are non-content records which also attached to that. But everything is still, I mean, I'll bring up the CMS. Everything's still managed within CMS. Yeah. And then also things like, obviously, for the full screen slider, the video, all that kind of stuff. It will also just determine, what are you visiting on here? Are you on an iPad? It'll actually re-render and show you like a more optimized video. Little bits like that. This we couldn't go fully responsive. A lot of the widgets that we built into this would just be too difficult. Just didn't really make sense because they also have a lot of traffic on mobile. It made more sense to do a highly optimized mobile build. Cool. Come on, baby. Cool. The next one, Jamaica. So JTB, the Jamaican Tourism Board, runs a big portal for Jamaica. It's the sort of main tourism portal for visiting the site, booking your holidays, seeing what's going on. In a partnership with FCB in New York, we landed this project last year. It was a lot of pressure. We had about 3.5 months, I think, to build it. It is a huge amount of content. And again, it was a complete rebuild on Orchard. And I'm saying the same word again, immersive, but the idea was to really create something which was tantalizing, and you just wanted to sort of jump through your screen and get onto the beach and run with the horses kind of thing. So it was a complete rebuild. A lot of full screen media, a lot of imagery to entice sight, and we brought in a lot of sort of off-canvas widgets, which I'll show you in a sec, using, again, Backbone and Ajax calls. So this for us was a cool example of Orchard as a large high-traffic CMS. 18x, so we constantly pulling and updating. Again, using Web API to expose a lot of JSON, Backbone again, everything managed in CMS. It's been set up for multi-language. It's not multi-language at the moment, though. This is hosted in Azure. Because we've got traffic coming from all around the world, I think the main VM sits on the East Coast, and then we've got geolocated reverse Nginx proxies in those regions. Okay. And these are tiny little instances. They are 768 megs of RAM Nginx boxes, which sit there to just take the load off the main server and obviously offer a much faster experience for clients. Big thanks to Seb, who helped us set up some of that stuff. Cool. So let's take a drive through. Oh man, this keeps hijacking. Current displays. Landing page. Small background loops in full screen video, which give you that illusion that like you're actually watching a live feed or something. Again, use of...
I really want to be there. Like seriously, that doesn't work.
Dude, don't you just want to
Yeah.
be there? Yeah. If I wish I might have a...
Feel the breeze.
I may have a... We actually had some cool music as well. Like, but if I show you what the site was, it's like about an 800 constrained profile before we did this rebuild. It's quite a big difference for them. So again, full screen video, all managed via CMS, all the elements that you see over here. One page scroll down, and you start obviously getting into content. And lots of very cool widgets to help just create like a bit of an exciting experience over here. But essentially, this is just a big CMS. It's a big content build. So all of these are just layers and static pages with content that's been added. Again, this wasn't also a lot of traffic coming through on mobile. We chose not to go fully responsive on this one. This is an example of a vendor content type. So the whole site is housed of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these vendors who list their properties and services within the site. And they end up getting galleries, contact details, a whole bunch of information to just create a much better profile for them.
Do the vendors log in and update their own information, or does someone do it?
No, they actually don't. I'm not sure why. Yeah, it's just a client situation. They've got guys who manage the content. I think it's just a quality control thing, to be honest. There's a couple of places on here which are actually like nude spots and topless spots, and so you get some crazy stuff coming actually through.
Full screen immersive.
yeah, fully responsive. So some of the cool things I just wanted to show that we added to this was lots of little snap outs. Little things like that to go and quickly fetch weather. It's one of my favorite parts. So you can see we haven't reloaded the page. It's a widget which is loading off canvas and fetching. At the moment now, it's actually fetching quite a bit of content. A bit sluggish. Let's try that again.
I think I went to the wrong Jamaican side.
Anyone been to Jamaica, by the way? Yeah? Does it look like this? Okay.
Let's see
Okay, just give it a sec. I don't know what's happening here. So this is a very cool widget. What it is a dynamic map of all the vendors. So as you choose different things that you're interested in different areas, it pops up and plots all the details for you. So cool, I'm interested in cuisine in, Montego or active and relaxing, and you can actually go through and say, okay, cool, let's find out about this heritage tour. So a big thing for them is they want to, showcase where everything was on the island, and festivals and events so guys could plan it like that. Once you've got into a vendor, you could go and create a trip planner and add, a whole bunch of different items to your trip planner. And once they're inside here, you can share that with friends and say, cool, we're going to go here, we're going to go there. And it just keeps that for you. It's like quite a cool touch. There's a very interesting gallery. So we did a full screen gallery again, and able to get more detail on it, or just quickly pack it away and you're back into the site. Are we on time? Anything else you guys want to cover or questions on that build?
Were there any challenges converting from the Orchard content to stuff that you could deliver through the web API with JSON? Like, was it just a matter of saying,
Yeah.
convert to JSON, go?
Fetch,
Yeah.
converts JSON, yeah. So we created DTOs, we do a query to list to get the content into DTO, and literally just return it as JSON.
DTO?
Data transfer object, like just a very simple class.
Okay.
Yeah. I can bring up probably one or two of those queries. We use it like quite a lot in the Toyota project as well. Yeah, so this is live. It's been live for a couple of months. It's doing really nicely. We're going to obviously continue growing it. Yeah.
You're not using Google Maps. Everybody uses Google Maps.
We are using Google. We are using this one. No, you know what this is? This is actually an image to do with this tour. So you're going from point one to, this is just a static image.
So that's what about back before running that?
Which one? This. Yeah, everything's Google. Everything's Google. Yeah, that's Google. Yeah. I mean, you can style Google quite radically now as well. Yeah. Yeah. So you still, what's cool is you still get obviously all the functionality. So cool if we, the googly stuff. Yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of projects where we've like totally restyled Google. There's like cool tools that you can use just to like recolor it and so on. It just saves that as JSON, and you just pass it in when you initialize the map. Anything else?
No one else got one. Can you talk just a little bit? Can you talk just a little bit about your choice of Backbone as an MV framework? And
Yeah, sure.
There's so many MV frameworks out there. I'm just curious.
Whew, we're opening up a
Not
can
a
of
culture
worms, man.
question, but,
Yeah. So for us, the reason this project, Toyota, we started in 2012. At the time, Backbone was, I wouldn't say the new kid in the block. He was the only kid in the block. Knockout wasn't around. Angular wasn't really around. There was Spine and Ember and so on. In terms of making the choice, there was the most documentation. So I had experience with Backbone. It was easy for me to upskill the team. And it's always difficult when documentation is such an important thing. I'm not trying to. Yeah, but there might be more powerful things. There might be better things. For us, there was the most examples out there on using Backbone. So you got a team of 20 developers. It's easy to say, there's 20 resources, and this is how we're going to do it. We're actually shifting more towards Angular at the moment. The amount of code that you have to write, Backbone's extremely powerful. It's awesome. It's also a bit of a steep learning curve initially, and the amount of work that we have to do, for example, in Toyota, where you're dragging sliders around and re-rendering views and filtering and so on like that. You have to write all that code. There is some model binding stuff that you can use, but you have to write a lot of code. And in frameworks now like Angular, you don't at all. It's like two-way binding. You save yourself a lot of time. And again, there's more documentation out there at the moment for. Yeah. So it's great. It's obviously very lightweight. I mean, I think minified, it's like 3K for Backbone. So it's great for Moby projects and things like that. We obviously are more sensitive. If you don't want a full-blown framework and you just want a library to, render some views and put things in a collection, and it's great. Yeah. Okay. This project, it's a big boy for us. FCB, our parent holding company, there's 160 offices or so around the world. They rebranded. This is a new CI. It's a new logo. It's a whole new thing for the business. When they were rebuilding, they were looking at all their studios, who could rebuild this and who could do the best job. And we won the account to rebuild. So it's a very exciting thing for us. It's what we've been working on for the last 2-3 months. It's going live on Wednesday, so you're very privileged to see the first look of it. So this for us is an example of a very progressive, creative type of site. Okay, like a brand site, like an artist site, like a photographer site, something like that. Okay. I'm going to do a refresh because there's a very cool intro animation. Cool, eh? Yeah. That's just JavaScript, man. JavaScript and one PNG. Yeah. So this for us was a fully responsive build. There's a couple of cool things that we use. So it's resizing some images. There's a couple of cool things that we use within this project, which I'm going to share. And we'll try and probably put one of them out to a module. We use something called Ajaxify and customized it quite a bit to fit within Orchard. So what we're doing is, what it allows us to do is we didn't also want to have a whole bunch of postbacks again. We didn't want to be continuously loading new pages and so on. So what we're doing over here is we're actually fetching pages in the background, bringing them in off canvas, loading up the content, detaching scripts, attaching relevant scripts that we need, waiting for the images to actually load within context, and then animating them in. And what that allows us to do is, we have things like that. So as we're moving between pages, we're not continuously posting back. So we're not going and fetching just specific bits of content. We're actually fetching the entire page.
Speaking of exchange, was your job?
Sorry?
Was this what the company SCP did? Speaking of exchange.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a big group, man. Yeah. So there's stuff for. I mean, we'll
awesome.
we'll look at. I haven't actually seen this, but yeah. So I mean, they've done work for. Or if we can look at the second, it's everyone from KFC to MTV to. And we built a lot of really cool animations, a lot of cool widgets within it. No backbone. This is just straight Ajax and CMS, and really simple to manage it. There's I think we might have created maybe 1 or 2 extra modules. It was just a whole bunch of front-end work plugged into Orchard. The rest of it was just basic CMS management. And again, you can flip between all the different work. We put in some really cool, if we look at, sorry, who we are. So all these guys, for example, it's Carter Murray, the CTO, CEO. All of these biographies are managed within the CMS as content types, and we just pull them out as needed. I thought this was a great page. So it's the entire history of the agency through the years. And just really cool animations, bringing it in. Again, each of these elements here is managed in CMS. So each of these is a content type. And again, fully responsive using Bootstrap with 3 or 4 breakpoints on it. So these are just some of the, let's find Seattle, there we go. They're actually in Seattle as well, I see. And so we got little widgets going and fetching the time and the temperature, and a little city guide. So each of the agencies would send us this content, and they'd say, cool, these are the places we want to put you, these are the images, here's the content. And then it's just very simple CMS content types, which you guys know inside out. The search widget was actually very cool. So just see if this is going to work. So it's searching over the search indexes. And as you type, it's waiting, sees a pause for 3 seconds and go and do the query and bring back results. And then obviously categorizing it so we can see, okay, cool, this is client, this was some work. For example, here's the Jamaican Tourism Board. You saw the site.
That's using the Orchard search.
Yeah. This is a very cool campaign they did. This massive stress ball that they took through Times Square. Okay, these are still locked. Trying to think about any other pages. The news, actually, this is very cool. So we plugged in all the social feeds into their news page. Guys can filter between. And as you cruise down, it just goes and fetches more content for you. Just really cool, like interactive stuff. It links out. Again, this actually goes direct. I can't remember if we're actually housing some of this within CMS or whether it's direct. Are we on time? Yeah, so I think it came out great. We're really happy with it. Going live on Wednesday. And what we're looking to do with this as well is offer this as a product to all the other 160 offices. So the idea is that the global team would be able to manage content, have a taxonomy, market, this is global news, this is global content, this is a global case study, and then all the other offices would pull content in. Just a scheduled job, pull the content in once a day, once every 4 hours or so. They'd be able to manage their own content, they'd be able to have their own theme, but they'd start off with this as a base template. Questions? Anyone?
Hey, these pages are loaded dynamically, or is it actually pulling a request? Like, say if you went to like Jamaica or whatever. You know how you did a search and you hit Jamaica and it
Yes.
did a little loading logo. Is that actually doing a page request or it's dynamically?
It's doing a quick AJAX request to go and do the search,
Yeah.
bring back the results, and just render it in.
Mhm.
in the
So what if they
container.
have two separate CSS or multi versions of CSS? Is it all pulled back at the same time, or is it pulling back the CSS that results that renders the
No,
page as well?
for things like search, it's just pulling back search results
Mhm.
and injecting it into.
But when you load the page, the CSS specific for that page,
Oh
is,
yeah,
when is
so
that actually being
so
loaded?
what it does is we have, just so you are aware of something as well. We had a bug which was breaking IE9. It was intermittent. We couldn't work out as we added some code, took some code out. We had issues continuously. We couldn't work it out. Went on for 2 days. Okay, CSS related. Just some CSS just wouldn't take. We use less. Okay. Any ideas? $100 for the guy who.
It was IE9.
Too many
Yeah.
CSS selectors.
Damn it. Yeah. So IE9's 4,000 CSS selectors, limited to 4,096 or something.
$100, nice.
Yeah, $100. 100 Rand. Yeah. So what we have done is, we use resource manifest and page-specific CSS, page-specific scripts. So we actually load in the page, and then we've got a core set of try and actually show you in the code here. We've got a core set of JavaScript files which are related to every page. It's just like, core stuff. We use backbone events and all that kind of stuff. And then when we've got page-specific stuff, it will load in, remove any other page-specific scripts, and just reattach just the ones that it needs. And by reattaching, it fires off the events, which trigger in like when things animate and load in and so on. But what was cool about that is that we could then not have this one massive CSS file or this one massive JavaScript file. We could break it down into sections.
That's great. I'd love to dive deeper in that realm. Like after your
Yeah, sure. I'll show you exactly what we did there. And as soon as we've sort of cleaned up this Ajaxify code, we put it out as a module, and it's really cool. Okay. The last one I can't really demo because it's actually an iPad app, strangely enough. So around the world, we got a call saying we got a conference in 2 weeks. Can you build us a conference app? And we want to be able to manage all the content ourselves, and we want to have as a product moving forward that we can use in 2 weeks. He said, yeah, sure. Okay. So it is an enterprise distribution app. So it's actually not on the store and so on. What they do is when they have these events, the app gets distributed to all the guys who are coming through. Often they actually give the guys iPads and so on. So I can show you some of the screens. And what we built over here was a native app on the front end, which allows guys to get a really cool overview of the conference. You can see speakers, actually attendees as well as speakers. So it'd be everyone over here, their bios, what's going on, where they work, etc. The agenda, venues that we're going to visit, restaurants we're going to, things like that. You get the details on the map, visit their website, and actually able to take notes as well against the sessions in your iPad, and then save them out and store them and mail them to yourself. So what's that got to do with Orchard? We built the back end for this to manage it, to manage the app in Orchard. So what happens is as guys go to an event, they get a code, they plug in a code, and it connects up to Web API in Orchard, and Orchard will go and fetch that particular event, all the content, the speakers, the video, the images, everything, wrap it all up into a JSON structure, zip that up, transfer it down to the app, and the app unpacks it, and then it lives on the app from there. So they can reuse it. So they're doing their third or fourth conference now, and they just go online, add the speakers, add the bios, throw in some images. You guys connect, and it shows you downloading, and 3-4 minutes later, you've got a full event with the notes and everything. So I thought it was quite a cool way to use Orchard. Again, using it as like a bit of a platform. There's also CMS. And yeah, any questions on that?
Can it push updates?
It doesn't. Yeah, so what happens when you do log in, the particular event that you're looking at would make a call and see, okay, cool, has anything updated? Yes. Brings down the entire package again. Yeah, we should have actually, we should have used it. So just a snapshot that I took, you can see within the dashboard, just 3 events that the guys have had so far, and you're managing attendees, the event, the agenda. So everyone had a cartoon. I had to have a cartoon, didn't I? So this is from Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. Something. Wait. Oh, sorry, guys. Sure. So just any questions on the app? Does anyone, before I just cover this little section, any questions on, yeah?
Maybe this is not exactly Orchard and the app, but I'm kind of curious. You know, you use Orchard for a native app. Was there a decision that the reason it was completely native versus making it like a web, HTML?
They wanted it as an app.
They just wanted it that way.
What it is.
Okay.
Yeah. We would have preferred to. I think it was so that guys could, there's PDFs, and it actually houses video as well. So I think it was for guys, if they're on the plane, they could go through their notes and they could, not have to actually have a connection. Cool. So next section I just want to talk about is just some of the things that we've learned. Like any tool, Orchard is awesome. It's great. You can do amazing things and throw a whole bunch of widgets, and you've got like a great UI. But just a couple of things just to obviously keep in mind is that every time you're throwing more content and more widgets, you've just got more queries that are being thrown out to your database. All right. We've had 1 or 2 situations where we just got a little bit carried away, to be honest. And suddenly, you're over widgetizing, and you're just making hundreds of database calls. Okay. So you don't notice it on your dev machines. You don't notice it maybe in a dev staging environment. When you start throwing scale at it, it obviously is a big issue. So on that, always do a sanity check. Okay. Run a profiling tool against your code. I love NHProf. Okay, fantastic tool. And it sits there and it just intercepts all the calls through to the database and gives you great reports like this. It happens real time. and you can see exactly what's being called. And it's very interesting to see as well, as developers, like what's actually happening in the background, what's Orchard actually, spitting out. And when you start seeing things like, the dreaded select n+1, which a lot of those issues have been fixed, that can literally bring a site down. And it's good to just be aware of what's actually going on, especially when you're starting writing, custom code, and you're doing your own queries on content, and creating your own content types, etc. It's good to just have the sanity check and just make sure that your code's as optimized as possible. We use New Relic as well on our boxes and on apps. Okay, combined with some load testing, it's a great tool to find out what's going on in your app. What it'll do is it'll sit and monitor your server health as well as your app health. And where this is, really helpful, we had a couple of issues with caching. Very quickly, by throwing some load at our servers and running this, can we actually isolate and see, okay, cool, these are the calls that are causing problems. This is what's happening. These are particular pages which are a little bit slow. And it gives you great insight into what's actually going on. We use Blitz as well for load testing. Great tool. So whenever a site goes up, we'll throw a couple of hundred, start at a couple of hundred up to a couple of thousand users and see what happens. When you're running things like New Relic as well, you really get good insight into what's going on in the application. And one of obviously the key metrics to understand is, at what point am I going to start having timeouts? At what point is the CPU just going to, get locked up? So we can see over here, this particular test, this is the sample, at 200, concurrent users, site drops. And it's just a good thing to understand what your limitations are on your sites. Cool, so if you need to get a hold of me, there are some details. I'm not as active as I should be on Twitter. You can find me on Clash of Clans, probably a little bit more. Any questions, guys? What's Clash of Clans? Oh, man.
I have a question about all of the client-side UI presentation you guys do. How do you balance, obviously it's very fast and it's great because it puts a lot of the load on the browser, but SEO concerns, like how do you guys balance the fact that a lot of those pages may not have much SEO value?
So when pages like inside that FCB app that you saw, all of those pages are pages that exist. So you can go straight to that URL and see the page. It's just a normal page. We're just choosing to load up those links via Ajax. But you can still navigate. There's a sitemap. All that still gets indexed. You're still loading. You still have the complete pages within the site architecture. It's just choosing, when you click on this, let's rather just Ajax that in.
Cool.
Any other questions?
I was writing down your email address and then it went away.
There you go.
This is kind of a question about your development workflow. Like when you guys get a big project like the FC, I think it was FCB.
Yeah.
How do you break that down into digestible chunks? And then in terms of like do you oversee every visual aspect of your site? Because on my team, I'm very much involved in the visual presentation of the content. Like, do you make all those decisions yourself, or do you have quite a few guys that they're just creative as well as you are, and they, how does that all?
So for us, it's a bit different from a development company. On a project, there would be strategists, copywriters, designers, creative directors, technical directors, developers, QA. It's a big process. It's not sort of like 2 or 3 devs who been there, man. So But that's kind of the process. So if we're busy starting now, like our biggest build, and probably the most traffic that we're going to see, etc., for a telecoms company. With that, it's a month worth of documentation and wireframes, and we actually do complete like site walkthroughs in an app called Envision online. And depending if there's like certain animation that we want to show them, certain interactions, we'd render that out in video and put that in situ in a browser and actually take it through the client and say, this is what we're thinking. This is how it's going to transition from here. Then it's going to come in from here, and then we're going to fade this in.
So basically, this is all figured out before it even hits, before anyone's coding stuff, more or less.
Yes and no.
I mean,
you know what I mean? We try and be like agile-ish. Things change. And people say, oh, yeah, we're agile, but what does that mean? I don't know. Nonsense. But things happen, and there was a saying that I quite enjoyed. Like someone said something recently. They said late change is a competitive advantage, and that it does mean something. Like on a project, if you've been building something for 6 months, in 6 months' time, you've learned a lot more. Like your clients learned more. As the project's evolved, more things have come out. Suddenly they're going to go, you know what, like that actually sucks. We need to redo that. And you do, So to try and get like this document and say, there you go, guys, you lock the door and see you in 6 months and you're not allowed out, and that's what it must look like. I don't think that works. Yeah. So it's quite an iterative process with us. Like we'd review the team would get together, the designers would review, the devs would review. If the amount of times like on FCB that we change things, the amount of times that client change things. That's also an issue, but
it's hard to meet deadlines.
It is, man. Yeah.
No code freeze a little bit.
Yeah, you try.
Yeah.
You try. Sometimes you try. You say, hey, listen, we're having a code freeze. Client goes, no, we're not. What do you say? Yeah, you can say all these things, they're good in principle, but in the real world, like when it's different to building product, I guess, within a business. Maybe you can say, cool, we're having a code freeze. Client says, you know what? We were going live now. Client the CEO was like, oh, I don't like those pictures on this one page, which I didn't show you guys. I don't like those pictures. The guy spent 3 weeks creating those pictures. They modeled them in 3D. We have a whole 3D team as well. So they spent 3 weeks modeling all these icons and stuff. And the guy's like, well, change it.
Do you have a coding standards of any sort in your team?
Sorry?
A coding standards?
Do we? Yeah. Yeah, we do. We use. In terms of our dev tooling and flow, we use Bitbucket extensively. All the projects are in Git. We use Jira to manage internally. On a big project, we'd use Node to build. A particular tool called Jake, which just would be compiling less and deploying through to servers and bringing a site down and bringing it back up, things like that. And we have everyday code review. So the day starts off, and normally what we do is we review a tech team, or we review an awards entry site or something like that, just as a team. And then the guys would do like a 30-minute, the seniors just quickly have a look and see what's going on. Just a little bit of sanity check on the guys.
Sounds like okay.
Sorry?
Good system.
Yeah, listen, it's evolving. But
any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Cool, thanks guys.